Hi, I'm Jane from Night Owl Speaks, and welcome to part 1 of Women and Alcohol. Today I pose the question, do we need to re-evaluate our relationship with alcohol? Now I want to start by saying that this presentation is not designed to direct, frighten or dampen the pleasure for those of us who enjoy a social drink from time to time and incorporate it into a healthy lifestyle. I just think that it's worth examining the subject and at least to start thinking about cultivating a mindful and informed approach to alcohol consumption. It's about risk assessment and personal choice in the end. So, ladies, let's start with the sobering news that alcohol is in fact a Class A carcinogen, and this means that it can cause cancer in humans. Yet in spite of this, alcohol still seems to dominate the modern social landscape as if it were as safe as fruit juice. It's seductive and it's everywhere, and advertising has helped to normalise its consumption. It seems well and truly embedded into our collective psyche. There are so many dazzling choices on offer. Fancy a gin and tonic? Maybe a cocktail? What about a cider, boutique beer, or even a crisp Chardonnay? Historically, men were much more likely to drink than women, and even more likely to have problematic drinking habits. However, the ladies would appear to be catching up. There would appear to be many reasons for this. There have been many societal changes within the workplace, at home and socially that have led to an increase in alcohol consumption amongst women. We're uncorking at book clubs, barbecues, picnics, sundowners, outdoor cinemas and all manner of social occasions, and even on occasions at children's birthday parties. In fact, in any place that people gather these days, alcohol seems to be readily available. There's definitely a little buzz and sense of euphoria that accompanies that first drink. It's quite seductive, really, because it can help us to relax and it can act as a social lubricant. However, this can be short-lived, and eventually you can feel lethargic and later on even a little anxious. I think that in the same way that the hazards of smoking gradually seeped into our collective consciousness, primarily through health campaigns, we are now on the cusp of alcohol coming under the microscope a little bit more. I think it's even more being seen now as a serious health hazard if it's misused. So, should we ladies be rethinking alcohol? I think it's worth giving it some thought at least. A good starting point might be to examine our habits and ask ourselves some pertinent questions. For instance, when and why do I drink? How much of a habit do I have? Do I drink to unwind, for pleasure, or because I might be socially anxious? Do I feel socially pressured to drink and uncomfortable when I don't conform? Am I bored? Am I masking depression or other issues that I don't want to confront? How much am I drinking? And how do I feel when I do drink? How do I sleep when I drink? Do I anticipate having a drink? And how would I feel if I couldn't have a drink? Do I drink alone? Do I ever regret words and actions after a drink? And how is my energy or motivation the next day after drinking? And do I ever have alcohol-free days? Anecdotally, and I'm sure that this can be backed up statistically, Gary reports that in the past 10 years, he is seeing increasing numbers of women who have problematic drinking patterns. Stressors and triggers are often linked to relationship stress, and Gary finds this especially amongst fly-in and fly-out workers. Then there's marital breakdown, health issues, financial stress, workplace issues, and dealing with elderly parents, and also dealing with children who sometimes have addictions and other challenges. As a result of misuse, women have alcohol-related problems sooner and at lower drinking levels than their male counterparts. Women generally have smaller livers and proportionately more fat and less water compared to men. And as water dilutes alcohol and fat retains it, Women are therefore exposed to alcohol for longer periods of time. Women also don't break down alcohol as quickly as men because they have less of the enzyme dehydrogenase. So in essence, when a woman has one drink, she is having the equivalent of two in her male counterpart. So let's look at substance misuse disorder. Long-term misuse of alcohol can lead to an increased risk of cancer, including in the breast, bowel, throat, mouth, liver, and stomach. Did you know that even one drink a day increases the risk of breast cancer by 5 to 9%? It is certainly a statistic to take seriously, I think. I recently went for a mammogram and I casually inquired as to whether any of this information was routinely available to women when they go for their appointments, and it would appear not to be so at this point, but I'm sure that in the future that's likely to change. Misuse of alcohol can also lead to liver damage, such as cirrhosis and hepatitis. Heart disease too. Alcohol misuse can also cause brain damage, especially in the absence of adequate nutrition. Frontal lobe damage can cause an impairment in executive functioning, such as reasoning and inhibition, judgment, decision-making, and social propriety. Alcohol is also toxic to peripheral and spinal nerves, particularly the dorsal columns which control balance. Therefore, there is an increased risk of falling. Damage to the cerebellum can also cause an affected gait or walking style. Alcohol misuse can cause memory impairment and dementia and psychosis. Alcohol depresses the central nervous system, and you may fall asleep quickly, but sleep tends to be disturbed during the second half of the night. Sleep apnea can also be exacerbated because alcohol suppresses breathing, and sleep apnea can also raise blood pressure, by the way. I know several people who have majorly reduced their alcohol from the perspective of sleep disturbance alone, including myself. Now, often people who are socially anxious drink alcohol to help them feel more comfortable. You've all heard of preloading, right? But paradoxically, this is not effective because alcohol changes the serotonin levels in the brain, which can amplify anxiety. Alcohol can also dampen mood and exacerbate depression. I know myself that even after 2 glasses of wine, it can have a mood-lowering effect the next morning, and you just don't feel quite so motivated. How about you? Well, that just about wraps up part 1 of this presentation. I hope you're not feeling too disheartened, because we have spent some time discussing the misuse of alcohol. So I hope that this presentation has been of use. Please join me for part 2, when we will explore the subject of women and alcohol a little bit more. So I'm Jane from Night Owl Speaks, and I'll see you soon.